for us now. What is this? 378. Test this and see how it works.
Yeah, 378.
That's weird.
Oh, my stomach has been awful the past week.
Oh, I woke up at 5 o'clock with stomach problems, so I know how you feel.
I think there's like a possibility that it's a sympathetic pregnancy thing, and I'm just like,
Oh, that's
why?
fun.
That's not fair.
Yeah, like getting morning sickness and not even like, not even getting the sympathy for it,
This can close here. Okay. You are first, the Sphinx.
I'm not even in the chat. No, I am.
Edel, have you played any Miracle Rogue? I assume no.
No, I have actually.
Okay. Good. I mean, I know you have in the past.
Yeah. So I've been playing reasonable
It's
stuff
true.
for THL, right? So I've been.
Oh right,
bringing
yeah, I forgot about that.
Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
And
It's true,
Rogue.
Burger Club.
Yeah.
I'm the only true degenerate of the three of us this week, I guess. So.
And then
no, it's Steve. I've been playing Rogue.
No, I mean playing like not meta decks.
Oh well, I've been doing that too.
I also made a hybrid version that runs Stash Contraband.
This sounds like the Edelweiss that I know. Yeah.
How can I take this and make it more degen? Yeah. Okay.
It's probably a substantially worse deck, I would imagine.
It does fine. Yeah.
That's not what I said. Miracle Rogue at Top Legend, the worst matchup is the Mirror. Yeah. So like you can be worse and still be good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just more fun, right? So it's got reconnaissance, and you pick the, hallucination up, the steal option more. I don't know why I started calling it hallucination, but I just have not stopped. The get a thing and it costs 3 less from.
Yeah, I just call that 3 less because you know what I mean when I say that, and it's 2 syllables.
Yeah. Yeah, if you pick that more, then that's a decent amount of Burgle stuff.
So if you pick 3 less more.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
less
Not
is more.
Confusing.
Not at all.
Where is my Miracle Rogue?
And then it still has like Tooth, and I added Recon. At first I had a Jara, that was bad.
Yeah, it
hey,
seems
what's
too
up,
expensive.
She's too neutral. Like the you can afford to run precisely one neutral in that deck, and it is a very important one.
It's actually 3 neutrals.
It is.
But it's only one in the deck.
Or 5 or 6, depending on how many times you shadow step it, I guess.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that in the screenshots of Astalor in 70% of decks, if you look down and to the right, you can see Iron Deep Trog at 55% win rate. So
it's mostly because of Shock Spitter Hunter, I think.
I mean, Iron Deep Trog is still a good card, but if you
you play it on one in a deck that's very good, and I don't know how much it actually has to do with whether you actually what I don't know that playing Iron Deep Trog has anything to do with whether you won the game or not, because you played Iron Deep Trog on one regardless, and then you had a deck with a 55% win rate. So, that kind of works out.
My point is that Astalor is only 52.
Yeah, because it's in a bunch of crappy decks.
You know what it's not
Astalor
in?
is-
Shock. Wait, oh no, it is in Shock. Never mind.
It is.
It is.
Astalor is brought down by the mirror match because he averages out to a 50% win rate over time when he's in both decks.
I mean, when he's in both decks in every match, then it regresses to 50%.
Yeah.
Like,
Man. So the number 2 most played card in Standard at 710,000 times since the balance patch, Diamond through Legend, Wildpaw Null. Number 1 at 1.2 million times is Astalor 2. That is the biggest Penslinger I've ever
honestly-
seen.
yeah.
I really don't have a problem with it.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it as much as it's just like,
Pretty sure it
That's
could be
the
a worse
kind of
card and
card
would
that-
still see
yeah.
play.
yeah, that's probably too good for a neutral legendary, just in general, right?
I mean-
like, I don't think it's offensive,
I guess.
you know, but it's I think if it's seeing that much play, it's probably too good for a neutral legendary. That's like class legendary, like, performance.
And also, do you want to see this for a year and 4 months at this rate? And also, Rogue
it's
uniquely
hard to know.
abuses it.
That I think.
Oh, don't you start. Don't you go. I see the path in your head unfolding towards the path of Steve. We're not. No.
It could just go out of core for a year. It's fine.
Or you could nerf the card in 70% of decks. Start there.
You could do both. You could always do both. But I would be very curious to see what alternate thing they would bring forth for Rogue. It just
How about just like average power cards? How about that? How about just
No, I'm
Average-
fine with that.
Average
Okay.
power in
Look,
context of Rogue?
Rogue
Okay,
is-
evil miscreant.
Rogue
Let's
is-
go.
no, like average,
Rogue is going to be
like-
strong
like
because that's
you
just
know,
what
like,
happens.
like priest circa like 2018 level cards for a while.
Like
That's not average power
ev-
level, Steve. That is not.
Everyone's
Well,
always
yeah, when
concerned
you start
about
printing
what
3
Rogue is
sets of those,
losing.
it ends up at average.
Everyone's always concerned about what Rogue loses, and it's just like, but they're gonna make something else that's absurd. So
We'll just print the same card again,
I-
like when they took away.
I
Abyss Blade
imagine
and printed
they could
Wicked
take
Step.
Shadow Step out of core and replace it with something like other stuff that would also be powerful and feel roguey.
Oh, Dreamland.
But anyway, I just think I feel like Astalor many times is just the first 2 stages. So it doesn't feel like the way that Denathrius did in terms of
You
like,
haven't
oh,
tried
this is
playing
always the thing
Lightforged
that
Cariel
kills you.
decks lately, have you?
No.
Guess what card is very good against Lightforged Cariel?
Good. Lightforged Cariel has been too good for too long, and also it's gonna go away.
I've been playing control decks lately, and
Why?
they're not bad. They're not bad. Okay, listen. I played Control Warrior yesterday, and I beat 2 Thief Rogues in a row. In a row, not miracles. Thief Rogues. They're hand of bullshit. Whatever. I beat them both. All right. I hit them with a hammer.
I have 104 Death Knight wins, and most of those are blood. Like it's. I also enjoy control. I don't know. I've had enough of Cariel.
Well,
I like
don't
having
think-
more than like one clear that requires 2 cards to actually happen.
Anachronos is awesome. He's so good. He's
I
so
know,
I've,
Anachronos
good.
is pretty sweet.
I've drowned him a fair amount this week.
Oh
He's
my
pretty good.
god. Ugh. That's not okay, Steven.
Do you like drown and then play Finley? Pick
No,
it up.
Finley costs 1. I don't want to play that. Oh.
I just feel like I ate something that I'm mildly allergic to.
I did. I was hanging out in Language Hacker stream before we jumped on, and I did tell him that my goal tonight was to make you vomit in your mouth a little bit.
We haven't even started recording.
All right. Well, let me use the restroom one last time before we start.
So mission accomplished. We haven't even started recording. I've already set out to achieve my goals for the evening. Yeah, I'm glad I got Midnight Suns on the PC because then I can just kind of just play it when I'm chilling in here, and it's, I just boot up a mission and then do it and then get out. So it's better that way. Also because I didn't. Yeah.
You've been fighting over the TV for a while now.
Well, like Maureen and Twinbee had this project that they were doing to raise money for the trip that her class is doing to Canada. And I guess they Maureen's friend homeschools, and they had like all these flashcards that were part of some curriculum. So it was like a ream of sheets of like these cards that they had to slice up and then cut with rounded corners. And they were just doing that in like the living room for like a week on end. And I just didn't even try because I saw like they're like in a groove, and I'm like, fine, I'm staying the hell out. But yeah, like all weekend I wasn't able to get anywhere near the television because that's where they were, just like binging all of Parks and Rec and cutting up cards.
That's not all bad.
Yeah, Burger Club. I don't yet. I'm basically just kind of I'm kind of being friends with everybody to figure out what, and I think I'm early enough in the story still because I did a lot of side missions, so I don't really have anybody like super powerful yet. I think I'm leaning towards maining Captain Marvel as a tank, and then maybe Nico, but I'm still trying to figure that out. Or I'm like kind of between Nico and Magic, but Magic's not really as much of a support as Nico is. I do like the idea of knocking people into portals and then through the portals into the walls. That's fun, but I haven't really gotten that to work yet. But Nico's like the ultimate Hearthstone hero because all of her cards just have a keyword roulette on them. They just do something random, and it's different every time. So they just made a keyword for roulette. Okay, sure. I think there's specifics of what it can pull, but
I understand where that's going.
Yeah. So she's like the Thief Rogue of Midnight Suns, I guess. But it's also weird because I don't keep up with like any of the Marvel stuff, so I have like no idea who half these people are. Like, Ghost.
I forgot to put this in my picture.
Oh, the Hydro Flask.
I've like stared at the Hydro Flasks in Costco for like 2 years and never gotten one.
What is a Hydro Flask?
It's a really good brand of like thermos.
Yeah. Was that from Sunken City? Is that a Hydro Flask?
No, but I like where your head's at.
Yeah. Which one?
Now I'm very confused.
He's making puns. Hydro
See,
Flask.
this is what happened. Edel had like a week of normalcy.
She came back
not
like,
accustomed.
That's true.
Why am I here?
I came back from Mexico, just completely destroyed.
Jared, that is an excellent sales pitch right there. A Nalgene that fits in a cup holder.
Yeah.
Is Nalgene a thing outside of the Northeast U.S., by the way?
I don't know.
I mean,
I know that in the Northeast U.S., like, it's all over the place.
I didn't think Nalgenes were thermal.
They're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Jared's in California, so yes.
I don't know. I guess this is like an off-brand Hydro Flask then, but it's cool because it doesn't spill out. It's like a sippy cup almost, unless I press the button on the back.
It would help to have show notes. Okay.
Yes. I'm going to scroll the Bee Gees patch, but also I don't expect any of us to have internalized it.
Yeah, I was in meetings the whole day while they were doing the thing, so I didn't get to see any of it.
I didn't see the thing, but I did watch RDU's reveal, and I looked at cards and such.
there was. I'm looking forward to playing with it, and I'm not going to try and pretend like I understand what's going on now. I did catch a little bit of the event, so.
Oh, I know what I'm gonna try.
Is it undead?
Well, a very specific
I mean,
kind.
Eternal Knights?
Yeah, of course.
Seems like your sort
Looks
of thing.
great. Oh man, Lich King, Eternal Knights. That's the
I
spot.
mean, Lich King as a hero seems pretty good overall in the Reborn thing.
I mean, the other. Well, I guess we should. I'll just wait. We can. Talk
is there
about this
one
later.
place that has like all of the revealed cards in one place?
Yes, it
but-
is.
I mean, I know the card library will have it, but that's
I'm
going
going
to
to be referencing Hearthstone Top Decks.
I was gonna say it's definitely not the Hearthstone website.
No, it is definitely not that. I'm going to be
It's
referencing
specifically not.
Yeah, it's
Here.
been a very weird thing. Okay, that's the page I have open. Okay.
I mean,
Right.
that's what I'll be scrolling.
Oh, because they just revealed everything on one day. Okay. Or over
Yep.
2 days. Okay.
Okay. I think we can start. Wait,
Yes.
gotta check one thing.
Okay, I'm not recording.
All right. I think this is okay. Red.
Okay. I am recording. I'm not sure. I guess I should talk a little bit more normally just to make sure that waves are going places. Oh, I should move this closer to my mouth too.
Seeing waves? Are we waving?
I'm seeing waves, yeah. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I
Hey,
also
Connor.
was like looking at the waves and not looking at the mic, which doesn't help either.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Hello and welcome to episode 378 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, January 12th in the evening. From Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Nomergon, Ohio, welcome back. We have Edelweiss, who is muted.
Audacity is still picking it up.
Oh, there you are. Hello. Your cable might be loose.
What?
I
Audacity
didn't
would have
hear
picked that up too.
I didn't hear you say hello. Steve, did you hear her say hello?
I did not.
Well, it'll be in my audio, so it'll still be.
The magic of podcasting. It'll be
The
there.
magic of post-production. I am marking the Great Wall of China right now. You'll see it. You won't be able to miss it. And joining us from Nomergon, Ohio, we have Edelweiss. Welcome back.
Hello.
And from Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
And from where you are, listener, we have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for reviews. Thank you for your support. Patrons, thank you so much for being who you are. We have a new patron, a new producer, and a new producer. This producer runs my favorite club, the Burger Club. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate having you here and for your producer level support. So thank you so much. All right. Edelweiss, how was Mexico?
It was good considering I was basically there for 2 days. It was like 2 days of travel and 2 days of being there. I was really just going there for my brother's wedding. I would have stayed longer personally, except that I take care of my nephew, and my sister hasn't built up enough days off at her new job yet, so she could only be down there for a brief time. And then also, my wife didn't have too many days off, so it was really just like short trip there for the wedding. My wife officiated, and then we came back. The other thing is, my wife is pregnant, so it was a project trying to manage all of the sickness that comes with that. At one point, like they were serving the stuff at the dinner, and we asked, "Hey, could she just have rice and beans? Like that's that's all she can do right now. All this looks great. Can't do it."
Oh gosh.
Well, I'm glad she got rice and beans.
She did.
But you can listen. You can do a lot worse than rice and beans. I have had many
That is true.
meals this week worse
Yeah.
than rice and beans. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how?
Meanwhile,
Go ahead.
yeah, meanwhile, I had some of the best ceviche I've ever had, which was phenomenal. Always nice to be able to have good ceviche, which I can't really do in the US so much. But yeah,
So you were the one eating for two that time.
yeah, I might have a bit of the like sympathetic pregnancy thing going on because I have just had stomach problems for the last week all the time, and at first I was like, oh, maybe it's like the water slash food, and it has kind of persisted. So, hopefully that clears up soon.
And how about your Hearthstone life? How's that going?
So before the show, I beat Renala and the Glintstone Dragon. I did some going backwards after being in places that are way too high level for me. But now level 60, I went back and beat those things. Yeah, no, I've been mostly playing Elden Ring.
I mean, that'll happen.
I-
I've been there.
Yeah. And then with the travel, I got back into Fire Emblem Three Houses, and that's been a whole thing because since I hadn't finished that before, that's another like just super time suck game. So I have played some Hearthstone due to THL, and Miracle Rogue's pretty good. It's yeah, it's also the Demon Hunter is challenging to play. I definitely lost my THL matchup because I did not play out a turn appropriately. It would have been a tough one to win anyway, but I definitely screwed up and died. Yeah. And then for ladder purposes, I made my own weird variant of Miracle Rogue or Mystical Rogue. I still like your name for it. But I basically switched around a couple things to add Contraband Stash and Reconnaissance. I think otherwise it's the same. And that's been pretty fun because you can pick off of the concoctions the cost 3 less and just hopefully get lucky, play a bunch of cool stuff. It's just a little more enjoyable than the run-of-the-mill list to me.
Well, I'm glad you were having fun, and that sounds very on brand. Just adding your own little twist to it. Do you add any other thiefy cards, or just the 3 less concoction?
Well, Recon.
Right.
Recon and Stash.
Right.
Yeah.
So you still have
Yeah.
Tooth, and then you play Recon.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
Tooth
Tooth.
isn't even in the Tooth
that is
isn't in
atypical.
normal Miracle Rogue.
Oh, okay. I guess it was in early lists and then got
Yeah.
cut for like.
Yeah, it was probably in the one that ran
Draw.
Wicked Stabs, like the first one, and then those
Yeah,
dropped out.
yeah.
Well, glad you're finding some fun with that. For while it lasts, we are covering Miracle Rogue in the Dexplanations with the full understanding that that clock is ticking on balance changes. So we'll see how much longer we have with it. We know we're getting a patch on Tuesday, but it is the BG's patch, so it is unclear if we're getting constructor changes in it. I would personally bet against them, but not bet a lot of money, because the they've had some time to think about what to do, and so I think it's likely more a technical limitation than than deciding which cards to change. But who knows? We'll see what happens. Steve, how's your life in ladder been?
Well, so you remember last week how I said I was trying to worry less about playing the best decks and more about playing decks that I enjoyed. So, around the beginning of last weekend, I got wind that Svalna Priest was turning into a real deck.
Oh no.
Oh yes. Oh yes. So that's basically all. I've probably played like somewhere between 70 and 100 games of Svalna Priest between Saturday and today.
Okay, please
It
tell
is-
me this is not like full Radiant.
Oh, it sure is.
Oh yeah, no, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. So there's only five
No.
there's only 5 minions in the deck. There's 2 Radiant Elementals, Xyrella, because of course, Svalna, and then you run one big Death Rattle minion so that you can get value out of Amulet of Undying. The list I'm running, which is Pocket Trains, runs Light Shower Elemental. Saviz was running Moarg Forge Fiend. There was a list I saw that the first one that I tried that had Spirit Guide. Don't do that. Use Fatigue. Like, that's a bad idea. But yeah, you just basically, and it's really consistent because you're running double switcheroo and 1 or 2 Horn Rathions. So you almost always
Wow.
have Svalna on 6, and you
Okay.
have like a ton of healing. So you can generally go Light Shower on 2, get it killed off into something, into like switcheroo or Horn, into clear with Zarella on 4 or 5, into Svalna, into then it's just a matter of finding your animate deads. And so what happens is that Sister Svalna from World's Fame is a 6 mana 6/6 that gives you a Vision of Darkness, which is a 3 mana spell that stays in your hand after you cast it, that discovers a shadow spell. So what you do is you get a Radiant Elemental and then 2 animate deads, or you discover 3 animate deads after that turn, and then you just go infinite, and then you just start playing APM Pirates in Constructed, and you start finding you're obviously looking for animate deads to be able to do it the following turn, but you get Void Shards, you get Amulets of Undying to be able to resurrect the minions, you get Drowns, you get Shadow Word on Death isn't even terrible because it's still face damage. Identity Theft is okay. Generally, you run Identity Theft mainly so that you can get the vision back after you get Theotard, which happens sometimes. But I had a game where there was one game where I got a Steno off of Identity Theft, and that was pretty much the game right there. That was just it was just
pretty
play the
good.
Radiant Elementals, play Steno, and the game ended. I did beat a Quest Priest because they played the Quest Priest reward, the Zarella. I drowned it, drew it, played it, and then drew the shard and played that before they were able to draw their shard out of the deck.
Lord, give me strength.
I had a game against an aggro mage where I had drowned the Aegwin and then beat them with repeated identity thefts of stealing their frozen touches that were in their hand with the Aegwin that was on board. And then there was this one game against a control warrior that I posted in the Discord. I don't even remember what happened for most of the game, but they played Lorthamar Theron. It went for a while, and they played Lorthamar Theron, which doubles the stats of your deck. And I played Identity Theft, and they were running Trench Stalkers, which is the 9-drop that attacks. That's like an 8/9 that attacks
Yep.
three enemies.
So you got a 16, 18 Trench Stalker.
I did, and then I drowned their Astalor. so I played the Trench Stalker, and that did a lot of the damage. And they played their Trench Stalker and hit me back, but I had enough health, and I just played their Astalor for lethal. And I've had plenty of games where I've actually drowned multiple Astalors and beaten them with multiple Astalors out of their deck. It's been very entertaining.
So I was going to ask how much of its success was due to priest removal lining up well against ghosts, but it sounds like you haven't even been facing that many rogues.
I'm not, but it is very good because you still run double Shadow Word Ruin, which is just very good against the ghosts.
Yeah,
I've
that's
been
what
facing a
Pocket
lot
Train
more
added,
hunters.
and it's like really, really good.
Yeah, it's very good. And I mean, you also have like the Light It Burns and stuff like that. And the Zarella Clear is generally good against most early boards. And like you just get like once you start going, like you just get a lot of like devouring swarms. Void shards are very good. You know, you get Shadow Word Devours. So it's just like you have enough removal to just chew through a board and heal up at the same time. Like I've beaten multiple like Blood Death Knights just because like I take their patchwork and then end up getting rid of their stuff.
You have
And
literally
also
infinite
they're-
resources. They can't even.
Yeah.
No control deck can come close to doing anything to you. You have literal infinite resources.
Yeah, I mean you do slow down because you don't get like it's only like 20% to get Animate Dead. So like you don't get enough of them and like hand space is actually the real limiting factor in the deck.
Oh,
just
no.
because like
I feel so bad.
well, you just get a bunch of jank that you have to pay, and some of it actually costs actual mana. Like a Void Shark costs 1 at that point. It's pretty bad. You know, there's only so many things you can do, but time and hand space are more of like a limiting factor at that point. I've had turns where I've played like 20 cards and floated 8 mana. It's great. It's fantastic.
I could play this
understand why
back
people
to
like
you
Carrot Rogue.
and tell you that you were talking about Thief Rogue, and nobody
I know.
would tell the difference. No one would have any idea if you were talking about Rogue or Priest.
Except I'm not generating I'm generating random crap, but predictable random crap. Like I know what I'm planning to generate. Like Call of the Grave's the only thing that's really like true like random RNG, and even that is like I don't take that as much as I used to, just because there are a lot of bad Death Rattle minions, and there's a lot of ways to screw up this deck. Like if you drown a Colossal, that's generally a bad idea, just because like all of the appendages cost 3 or less. Like anytime you play a minion that costs 3 or less, or like if you take like 2 mana Astalor, that's like a rite of passage. Is you take a 2 mana Astalor and then you realize why you shouldn't do that. Because as soon as you have anything that's not a Radiant Elemental in the Animate Dead pool, like the deck just like grinds to a halt. But this is like the most fun I've had in this expansion, and it's not close. Like it's just like you get that turn where you just like start throwing down Radiant Elementals and going, and you just figure it out as you go, and it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it, and it just like some of these game states are just so silly at the end of it. You know,
You don't say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only like 50% with it, but I'm at more than a 50% fun rate, and that's what's important.
If this picks up, I might have to throw some Primordial Waves in my life.
That has happened. I've gotten mass polyed also from a Thief Rogue, of course, not from an actual mage, but from a Thief Rogue. But it's okay because Vicious Syndicate said the deck was trash, so not many people will be trying it.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
It's Svalna Priest? We said that it's early on and there might be something to it, if I recall.
No, they said the deck is terrible, is what it said.
In the last 24 hours, there has been increased interest in Svalna Priest, but it's too recent for us to comment on.
Some players are trying out Svalna Priest, but the deck looks terrible from the Priest section.
You were looking at 251, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, is that not
The most
this week?
recent was 252.
Did I click on the wrong one?
You sure did.
Okay, so there's okay. Well, maybe then it's not. Maybe some people will try it, but you have to be really dedicated to try it, to stick with it, because it's very easy to screw up.
I won a
there
game
are a
with
lot
it.
of ways.
I was playing against Ant, and he was playing Frost DK, and I Zyrelodon 5, and he left. Easy win.
And then you put it down 100% win rate. I'm done.
No, I lost a couple games and after that, but I did win that one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, and sorry for anyone that has to face you. And I like how Vicious Syndicate evolved from "it's terrible" to "no comment." I don't know what that means, but it's probably not good for all of us. As for me, I have been exploring a heel turn myself, because I have been trying out some control decks because I wanted to. Now,
Are you okay? Do we need to roll out the intervention banner, or
a balance patch would suffice. I don't, and I looked at these decks. It's the Vicious Syndicate, Control Paladin, Control Warrior decks. I don't view these as hard attrition control decks. They can go for a while, but you're trying to slow them down and then kill them. This is not Plague Spreader Priest. That's not what's going on. This is the Control Warrior is Hammer Control Warrior. You hit them with Blacksmithing Hammers, you Tidal Revenant the face, and you kill them with Rokara and Astalor. And with the Paladin, You get to play all the cool legendaries because every Control Paladin deck in history has just been a pile of legendaries and equality. So, like, we're going to keep that consistent, but there's no Renathal here. And you get to, Far Watchpost is the defining early game, tech card right now. But then also the high end here is, starting from the highest mana cost, just to give you the Order in the Court sequence. Light Ray, Cariel, Leviathan, Mr. Smite, Anachronos, other Cariel, Samuro, Okani. They're all legendaries. A couple of those are free, but most of them aren't. But its deck is pretty fun. The games go for a while, but you're capable of eking out wins that don't seem like you should be able to. I've done that a few times. Played in my THL match today. I played a all control deck, 3 control decks and Renathal Druid, because I wanted to farm Frosty K. And the first game was Paladin against Big Spell Mage, and I won. It took 17 turns. 17. It took forever. Oh my goodness, it took forever.
Sounds like an average game. I don't know what your problem is.
I don't know what your problem is. But I will say, Anachronos, amazing, super cool card, really, really strong and fun. And there's a fun minigame for both players, but it really just means I get to stop the board from doing what it's doing without worrying about it, and then when everything comes back, I just kill that board and your current board at the same time. Really fun. Also, he's big, so you just smack people with it. I played a 10-10 Anachronos and then put a Hold the Bridge on him today. It's a bunch. So I've enjoyed that, but they are different, and the games do take a while longer, and inevitability is not guaranteed. It's very tense all the time. But, that's how I've been trying to find fun in the current standard. I think the bones of this format are still pretty decent, but I'm having less fun than I want to most of the time, just because the homogenous nature of my opponents at around top 1K is a lot of rogues, a lot of demon hunters, couple hunters. People are experimenting because they're bored, but we need a balance patch. It's not urgent. If it isn't this Tuesday on the 17th and it ends up being the following week, we'll make it. But if it was different, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think, I actually like this meta way better than some other ones we've had where I probably played more. I think it's just, I'm not in love with it, and in terms of ways to chill right now when I'm done with work and when I'm taking care of Rachel and everything, competing just isn't exactly it for me. For whatever reason, trying really hard to beat Elden Ring bosses is. But there's a lot of cool stuff. It's just a couple things are out of line. I don't know.
It is a lot harder to play control at below top legend too, just because there's a lot more variance than there's a lot more things that kill you from hand, like the Miracle Rogue. I guess Demon Hunter does do that, but you generally have enough to be able to outlast their one bomb. But Shockspitter Hunter can get over the amount of life or armor that you can build up a lot of the time. If they save their resources appropriately. I've seen way more Shockspitter Hunter than I have Rogue today. I mean, probably since the Vicious Syndicate report came out and said hey, play Shockspitter Hunter.
Right.
It's a lot harder to play control against that deck because it does get ahead of you early, and then it has enough juice to be able to get over the line once the control player stabilizes.
Yeah. It's a format where there are some clearly rough edges. I will say that outside of top 1K, especially when I've done coachings, I've seen more variety, like you said, and it makes it a harder meta to predict. But also, I do think that Shockspitter Hunter will need to be pulled back a little bit. But we'll see what happens. We know that there is a balance patch coming. We know that this format is not going to be here forever. So why don't we talk about what we do know, which is the big patch coming next week for Battlegrounds. Potentially more, but definitely Battlegrounds.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
So a huge BG's patch is coming. The 0.2 patches are always the refreshes, the new seasons. and we are getting just a lot of content here. So we'll give you the overview. I think all of us are in the same boat of, I heard that a ton of stuff is coming and we're all overwhelmed, but we're going to play it. I did manage to catch a little bit of the event today, so I'll give you a brief overview, but I don't claim to be an expert in a format that hasn't happened yet. But on Tuesday, January 17th, Undead is coming to Battlegrounds. Quests are leaving. Very important to note, quests are leaving. Not forever, probably, but they aren't going to stick around for this. And we are instead getting undead and dual-type minions. So there are Murloc dragons, there are undead beasts. Reborn is going to be a big thing for the undead minions as well as Death Rattle, and the dual-type minions, obviously they overlap with multiple different minion types, and they are eligible in either lobby type. So if there is an undead beast minion, it can show up for undead or beasts. Doesn't need to be both to see this in your picks. The marquee flagship headline hero, Professor Putricide, but the Potion Master version, not the original one that was in and then out and then back in by accident and then out and then gone. It has the new art, and it's 4 gold to build an undead, where you take an undead, pops up in a discover option, and another one, and you stitch them together. These minions don't golden. You can't triple them if you can duplicate it somehow. They just are what they are. And the pools for this they're weird. I don't have a better way to explain this. There are only 4 BG-specific minions in the pools. The other are undead from the main game. So things like Arms Dealer, which you cannot get in BGs, is in one of these pools. There's Nightmare Amalgam is in there. There are a bunch of minions that are in base Hearthstone that are only pickable within Putricide, and you can't get them in BGs otherwise. Funky. It's interesting.
It's interesting, but also gonna be really hard for anyone that doesn't look this up to like know what to expect for their tavern tier.
Yes. Well, I imagine the high-level players will probably look it up, and there will be tables, and it'll be in deck trackers and all that. And we know it's public what's in him, what is available. But, I mean, I don't know right now here on the show.
Right, but like, if I think of the 5-mana 4/2 Stealth Reborn,
Yes.
what does that become star-wise? I don't know. I know it's in the pool, right?
Yeah. And you're only going to see it like once in a while, right? Because like you're not going to be like you're only offered however many heroes out of a lobby.
Well, he's the new one, so he'll be guaranteed, right? For at least a little
to
while.
one player in the lobby, right? Like
Yes.
not to everybody, to somebody. And so, but you're not really going to know what all the options are if you're not playing with him, and you're only going to see what the result is. And especially if you're not paying for the Battlegrounds pass, you're only getting 2 options, right? So like if you only see it like once every, I don't know, 10 games or 15 games, it's going to be hard to keep track of that. I mean, eventually, if he's around long enough, people will figure it out. But it is kind of awkward having a unique pool for a hero like that.
I have to imagine that that we'll get to know what's good in here. And Jay Karek in the chat, known Battlegrounds enthusiast, said, click it on 6, that's where it does the dumb things. Okay. Seems reasonable. The combination that I saw today that was pretty gross was, so Hungering Abomination is in the first pool of picks. It's a tier 5 minion. It's a 3/4 that says Avenge 1, gain +1/+1 permanently. And that's a BG-specific minion. And the other half, also a BG-specific minion, Colossus of the Sun, which is a 6/6 Divine Shield Reborn. So you permanently scale your Divine Shield Reborn. Seems okay. But there are things... So I'm looking at the list right now. In the first pool, there are things like Incorporeal Corporeal, the 5/5 that dies after it attacks. Gilded Gargoyle that gives you a coin when it dies. Tomb Pillager, which also gives you a coin when it dies, but it's larger. Bone Drake. Steve, I know you know Bone Drake.
Oh, I know Bone Drake real well. Yeah.
6/5 that when it dies, then you add a random dragon to your hand. And another tier 6 minion that's a choice that's from Constructed Hearthstone. Devourer of Souls, which gains death rattles of things as they die.
That's terrifying.
On the other side, in pool number 2, there's Shadow Rager, which has stealth. Shade of Naxxramas. There's
Shade
Drakari.
of Naxxramas.
Yes.
Wow.
Fun, right? There's the Stealth Reborn thing, Venomancer, which is a 2/5 with Poisonous. There's a whole bunch of different options here. So, I don't know how I'm going to keep track of this, but I'm going to do what JKRX says. I'm going to click this on 6 and see what goes on.
You
So
just take the good ones. You'll figure it out.
Colossus plus poison seems.
those
like a
are
win.
both in pool 2. You can't pick both.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Because one has text and one has keywords.
Those are
that how it
both in
works?
the same pool. It's the first pool is the complicated ones. The second one is the simple ones. And so
Yeah, gotcha.
Poison
Just like
or
zombies,
Divine
yeah.
Shield Reborn are both the simple ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, they won't smush.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, we'll figure it out. I don't know. I'm looking forward to playing it. I'm going to keep scrolling this page.
Yeah. Though before you go off that, there was a really funny tweet that Regis had, I think yesterday.
Oh,
I
I
don't know if
saw
you saw
that.
it.
I think
Yeah.
on the dual tribe minions. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I put it in Discord, but yeah, it's about the biology of Quillbore and Naga mating and making a dual type Naga Quillbore. It was
yeah.
yeah.
So the scary thing that I am concerned about is that Celestalon replied to this tweet that says the minion that's really a mistake is in the mini set. Cora replied, it is absolutely a mistake. Leo replied, yeah, that one's a mistake. I asked, what did you do? Mitchell said, a mistake. Celestalon replied to that saying, you're not wrong there. I am deeply concerned with what we're going to see. And I have been told, I asked about this, I have been told, you will know it when you see it, without a doubt. So I don't
So
know.
are we taking the over or the under with Gentleman Shutterwalk as the baseline?
This seems pretty far over. Yeah. I don't know. I'm concerned. Anyways. So, what else do we have? Battlegrounds track refresh. We know about this. I did see the new strike in action today, Rending Winter. It looks cool. The structure of the battle pass is the same. If you want hero choices, go buy them. You don't need them, but if you want them, go buy them. If you want cosmetics, go buy them. If you don't care about either of those, probably don't buy it. But otherwise, it's the same idea. There are lots of skins and strikes, and bartender too. And
Some emotes. The emotes are all free, right? Or no, not all of them are free.
Not
Some
all
are
of them.
free.
There's also, it's worth noting, the pre-order came with a Nomi bartender. Nomi is nowhere to be found here, so I'm guessing that's going to be a separate purchase. But he's not here, so that pre-order, I guess he just needed to get it, and it just vanished, and we still don't really have information on why it arrived or left the way that it did, but I guess we'll find out. So we've had most of the reveals already. There is a dev interview on Saturday on Heart Queen's channel. Over on twitch.tv/HeartQueen. I'm guessing that's going to be a heart-to-heart with probably Mitchell, but it could be John. I don't know. Someone cool. I love her channel. She has great content. She just did an interview with Kibler, which is really cool. Does the hour-long interviews where she talks to them about just, like, not even Hearthstone-specific things. We have gotten a lot of information on the minions coming in, the minions coming out. Oh, with Gia. Thank you, chat. It's with Gia. It's an interview with Gia. That sounds even better. I love Gia content. Oh, I miss Mellodover so much. So there are a lot of minions here. I'm not going to go line by line, minion by minion, but a lot of undead, a lot of reborn. This is Jelly Belly. Look at his belly. I want you to see it. Look at him. He's holding it.
That looks like something you should get checked out, honestly. That doesn't
He's
look healthy.
asking people to check him out, and they're running away. We also have some changes to some minions that we know about. We got the dual tribe ones. I was also specifically told about Fellstomper. Fellstomper is a tier 6 3/7 demon beast. After you summon a minion in combat, give your minions +3 attack. Apparently this looked insane on stream today. which makes sense to me. I think it was RDU that said it's a smoking gun that stacks. And smoking gun was pretty good. There are a couple other interesting tier 6s. Mecha Jaraxxus is a Mechan Demon. He's a 315, which I really appreciate. And he gives you one of 3 Mecha Demons that can magnetize to mechs or demons, including Baltharak, Mechtherodon Prime, and someone named Rusted Reggie who gives Wind Fury. I'm sure we'll hear about that. Yep.
That's a tier 1 minion too. That gives
Well,
Wind
but
Fury.
they are only generated, their tokens only generated off of Mecha Jaraxxus, so the tier doesn't matter.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. The other 2 changes I really want to call out, there is Titus Rivendare, which is Baron Rivendare, but he's alive now. He's no longer undead, so there's no undead synergy. But also, he no longer says your death rattles trigger twice. He says your death rattles trigger an extra time. This means they stack. So you can have a bunch of Rivendares and a bunch of things will happen, and I hope Leapfroggers aren't too good because I am concerned.
Well, I mean, really this is how it behaves when it's golden, right? If you have
But
2
then
of
you
them.
can
So
keep
it's just
buying more
letting you-
Rivendares.
But there's only so much room on the board before you have all Rivendares and no death rattles.
I think 2 golden Rivendares would probably be enough, because that means you're zap-proof.
If you can get 2 golden Rivendares, you earn that win. Like, I think that's fine. But I mean, really what it's saying is that you can get the benefit of golden Baron Rivendare with 2 Titus Rivendares on board, whereas before you could play a second one, just wouldn't do anything because it just said twice.
Yes. But not undead, no undead synergy. Important. Yeah. And there's also the new tech card, Sindori Straight Shot. I saw this on stream. It looked pretty powerful. It's a tier 4 3/4 with Wind Fury and Divine Shield. Whenever this attacks, remove Reborn and Taunt from the target. So, not permanent removal, but if your opponent has a couple Reborn Taunty things, it just gets him out of the way. And it has Divine Shield, so it survives the first hit. So, seems pretty powerful. Looked pretty interesting. I watched some of the stream today, not a ton. RDU had a Twitter thread, which I'm going to pull up right now.
The other thing that I don't think you said is that the dual type minions will show up if either tribe is in that game.
Yep.
So
I mentioned that.
So if you have an undead mech, if undead or mechs are in that are one of the tribes in that game, then you'll have all the undead mechs will be in the pool.
Yes. So RDU's thread, even though quest going away technically means that staying on 1 gets better, in the preview event, power leveling and discovering 6 drops dominated, but this might not be the case on ladder. We're going to get punished by more people leveling slower. Eternal Knight is as powerful as we thought, but Eternal Summoner, the 6 drop, which summons Eternal Knight, seems to be the card that you want in your endgame lineup. Eternal Knights, for those that are unfamiliar, it's a really interesting, almost like Pogo Hopper-esque strategy that I expect to be extremely popular. It is a tier 2 4/1 that has +1/+1 for each friendly Eternal Knight that died this game, and then there's a 6 drop Eternal Summoner. It's a tier 6 8/1. The Death Rattle summon 2 Eternal Knights. So they keep scaling if you get them early, and then the more you have, the bigger they get. So I imagine people will really try hard to make that work. Anubarak is way better than I thought. If you manage to play a few fights with it in a Rivendare, you're going to have a lot of attack on the undead minions you summon. Anubarak is a tier 5 Death Rattle. Your undead have +2 attack for the rest of the game wherever they are. So if you stack this with Baron, then you end up with really, really big undeads. I saw a game where Crip was playing where he had Anubarak and Rivendare going for so many turns, he had 52 twos Reborns. So when you have a full board of 50 power Reborns, their health doesn't matter very much. Because you're just killing everything, and you have stuff and they don't anymore.
Why is the wherever they are relevant in BGs? Like, what is...
That means future ones you buy. It's a player buff. It's future ones you buy, ones you summon. So it's a permanent buff.
Oh, so every time that it dies, it's buffing everything further? Permanently. So if the 2 of them die, then everything has +4 attack in the shop, in your hand, and on the board.
Permanently.
Okay.
It's an accumulating player buff. So it sticks to the player, not to the minions. So there are a bunch of things that make undeads more powerful permanently. They it's really the way they top-down designed Undead in both Constructed and BGs. It's a shambling horde that gets stronger the more you try and push them back, and the more they die, they only come back stronger. So this is how that feels, is that you see them dying and coming back stronger and dying and coming back stronger over and over again. Talks about Fellstomper. Pirates felt weak because Tony rotated, though the Pirate Naga 6-star felt pretty good because it can make Nagas golden. Murlocs felt underwhelming. Maybe it's time for Toxin to come back to 4-star. You don't have to unfollow RDU people. It's okay. What I was mostly afraid was quest rotating making the game feel boring, but that was not the case in the games I played tonight. If the meta becomes boring, they can always add quest surprises to spice things up. If they would have released with quest, they couldn't add to it. We barely got to scratch the surface of the new patch in the few games we got to play. Excited to see how the meta turns when millions of players will play daily. So, seems interesting.
I guess the thing with the dual class or dual tribe minions is that you're going to get more variety somewhat because you're going to have more minions that are in play, though I do wonder if that does make it feel samey after a while, right? Because you're going to see more of the minions in more of the games, but it does feel like having some of these things like, well, okay, you have a mech that can magnetize to demons. Now that kind of opens up different types of comps that you can build, right? Like you're not necessarily like if you get beasts, you don't have to go, like Leapers or Goldrin. Maybe you have something that gives you like a hybrid. Though I mean, I'm just thinking back to like when we had dual class cards in Scholomance, and you started seeing like a lot of like Wand Thieves, and things started to feel a little bit samier, even though they were in multiple classes.
Yeah,
but it's possible that you could just open up more comps this way by having a little bit more flexibility in the minions.
And there's only one crossover for every pair that I can find. There's nothing that has multiple dual tribes in the same group. Like there's only one mech demon. There's only one Naga pirate. There's only one demon beast. But I do expect we will see these quite a bit, and they'll have to tune them pretty routinely because they have 10 tribes now, which means you can have lobbies back to back which don't have any of the same tribes, but you'll see a lot of these same minions. So I wouldn't be surprised if these are on the good side. Then we will hear about them more because these are closer to neutrals. They're not quite neutrals, but they're close to neutrals, and that multiple tribes can use them. And some of them, like Magmalock, it's a 4-star 1/1 elemental Murloc. At the end of your turn, gain +1/+1, repeat for each minion you played this turn. You can play this in Pirates, and it's great. So, like, that can just be a card that has 2 tags, but you don't need either tag. So, I would not be surprised if we see that one in particular in a lot of games. Or Felemental, which is a tier 3, 3/1 elemental demon. Battlecry, minions, and Bob's Tavern have +1/+1 for the rest of the game. You just probably take that a lot. You just pick it and play it, and then you don't need to keep it. So, something like that. Anyways, I don't know. I'm not very good at BGs, but I'm excited to play these. They removed a whole bunch of minions, including Khadgar is probably the most important one. Baby Crush, I'll miss you. Tony Two Tusk is out. Few others. Icky Imp and Green Thumb are coming back. Amber Guardian's triple now hits 2 minions instead of 1. Peggy drank more milk. She is no longer Peggy Brittlebone. She is now Peggy Sturdybone, and she's not undead anymore. Because Peggy Brittlebone is very clearly undead, so they just they did a pre-death Peggy. Yeah. So drink your milk. Galewing, they changed up his abilities so that it's in 1 turn give your leftmost minion +2/+2. In 2 turns gain 2 gold. In 3 turns discover a minion of your tavern tier, and you cannot pick the same option twice in a row. So, significant rework. Millie Manastorm, whenever you summon a mech, give it +2 attack. Jaraxxus, 1 gold, choose a friendly demon. It consumes a minion in Bob's Tavern to gain its stats. And then, Pyramid. 0 gold, give a minion +1 health. And the hero power gains +1 health each turn you don't use it. So it was 1 gold with that text for a while, and now it is 0 gold, but it starts at +1 health. So yeah. So, I'm curious. But that's all we really know about BGs. The event today was very ambitious. It was The format, I'm honestly not going to try to explain what was going on here. There were 3 different teams, and there was a whole big spreadsheet, and there were team trades and point tracking, and it was hard to keep track of, and clearly was ambitious, and the execution fell short of the idea. They should do something simpler next time. I appreciate the energy put into it, but it was just hard to understand what was going on when they weren't playing games, and I just wanted to see them play more games. So I am sure the next event will be a little simpler, but we did get to see people play Undeads, and that was fun. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also just weird if you're like, oh, I want to root for this team because I like this player. Wait a minute, now they're on this other team. It's just very strange. I think in general, you want teams to be static so that people can like pick something and stick with it the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, in general, like I think that the problem with the show matches, and we saw this with the Death Knight one too, is that people are tuning in midway, and like if what you're doing is not fairly comprehensible, then people are just going to be lost, right? And ultimately, you don't have to make these things super complicated and have a gimmick. People are going to watch because they want to see the new stuff, right? Like you don't have to try that hard to set up an event. Just like make some sort of a structure where people are going to play games and let them play games, right? And people will watch that.
I feel fairly confident that Blizzard has already gotten a lot of actionable feedback because the other people who were lost were the people playing in the event, and they did not tune in midstream. But gotta try stuff sometimes. I think we would say this one maybe was too ambitious. I know that we all have various levels of tournament organization and admin experience, and generally what you want to do is make things as clear and simple as possible all the time and assume that players will get it wrong all the time and then have a clear way to correct it while not inconveniencing yourself as an admin. But we weren't running the tournament. We're not BG's players. Either way, I'm glad we got to see the new stuff. And I feel confident the next event will be simpler. However, there was an event that was really cool this week as well. The cosplay contest. So there were some really, really great entries here. You can find them. I have it linked in Hearthstone Top Decks. There was the Death Knight category, the Armor category, the Needlework category, and the Goblin craft, which was cardboard and tape and category, and there were some really, really impressive results.
In retrospect, I should have just tried to do the Goblin Craft thing with all the boxes we've been getting from ordering stuff for Ritual.
You have a lot of crafting materials. But yeah, so you look at just the detail in some of these winners. The Imriel cosplay Death Knight is kind of crazy. The precision of the Brightwing needlework here is really involved for Achilles cosplay. The Tyrellion armor from Danny McFly, really great. And then Duct Tape Valera. I love Duct Tape Valera. This is very funny. Yeah. It looks like a lot of work, even though it's just cardboard and tape.
The Tyrellion one had like electronics built into it. Like,
it was so insane.
It was really intricate. Like,
yeah.
I mean, not that I don't have respect for people who build cosplays, because like I know how much work goes into those, but like, holy smokes! Just like when you're actually like going to whatever has replaced Radio Shack for components, like that's some dedication right there.
Well, and the makeup as well, right? Yeah. Like the scars on the face and everything.
And the beard. Yeah.
Like I assume that is not just.
Yeah, they showed him putting the scars on. Yeah, they showed him. Yeah. They showed him putting makeup on at one point, and it showed him like putting the scars on and like applying like the beard and stuff like that. It's like it must have. I mean, they were showing it as like a time lapse or like a montage, but it must have taken hours just to get all that stuff right and set up.
It's really cool. Congratulations to Danny McFly and to all the competitors. And the panel was judged by like real cosplayers, and it was fun to see and something different that I think worked out really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the news. Now we could read the tournament news here in the news section, and in a way we already did. Because do I play the tournament bumper? But why? Why would I do that? We're still waiting. We know that there will be an announcement coming soon for esports, but we don't have one right now. So, but if we're going to talk about competition, why don't we talk about Rogue?
So, Miracle Rogue, of course, is just putting up insane numbers right now. Even with the nerfs to Sinstone Graveyard and Draka. Hat's happy because no more killing people with Draka weapon.
I'm happier.
That's taken care of. Happier. Well, for a while, it at least seemed you were pretty happy. And the concoctions are just pretty good. I think the key interaction that makes this deck kind of gross is you mulligan for Potion Belt, because when you Potion Belt on 2, Maestro up, your nulls are free. Because for whatever reason, it just gives you. Does it discount by 3?
Yeah,
when
it does.
that?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you get each of the concoctions and then the one that replaces both of them. So it counts as 3 cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter.
It's a lot. Yeah, Jay Correct is correct. When you draw Astalor, that can technically slow you down. But yeah,
Sure.
Belt gives you unpaired, paired, which for a while it seemed like the broken part about Wild Paw Noel was Secret Passage. But, okay, let's not say that wasn't broken, because it very clearly
Sure.
was. But also, there are a lot of things that Rogue does that have the potential to be broken, and Wild Paw Noel is there for all of them. So, it's very powerful. You get to play Sinstone Graveyard as a scuffed Edwin, but like it's still fine. So the base is actually very similar to Edwin in beta when he was a 3-mana 1/1 with stealth that had combo gain +2/+2 for each card you played this turn. This is only +1/+1. But yeah, I mean, if you've played on ladder or looked at screenshots or watched streams or been on Hearthstone Twitter, you know what's going on here. It's important to note, we're going to talk about this deck a lot, but disclaimer number 1, this deck is going to be nerfed in a matter of days. We don't know how many, no more than 14, no less than 5. So, craft at your own risk. Number 2, if you play this deck and you advertise enjoying it, don't do so on Twitter because people will come up in your mentions. I'll be there supporting you. I'll do it. But people have strong feelings about this. And number 3, this deck is extremely challenging to play, both in terms of planning and in terms of execution. A lot of mana math, a lot of sequencing, a lot of animations. You gotta play, like I would play with frame rate on high. It doesn't do well if your phone slows down. And there's a lot of actions you gotta take per turn and some pretty fast decisions. Any other caveats I'm missing?
And your internet connection needs to be good too, because that can also slow things down sometimes.
Yes. So, core concept. Well, we do the Noel thing we've been doing for a while. Tradable Cutlass on 1, Potion Belt helps. If you get Warlock, you can life tap if you want. And you don't need your Noels to cost 0, but you want them to cost 0. And then, when they do, probably play them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to hold them for like if you belt on 2 and you have a Sinstone Graveyard in your hand, you can still just play the Null. It's fine. It's gonna do more damage probably than the +1/+1 on the ghost that comes out of the graveyard. You probably just want to get your 3/5 down.
I think the good way to really demonstrate that in terms of sort of just thinking about it for a second, right? If you get that Null down and it hits 1 time, that's 3 damage. It is an extra +1/+1 on your minion. That minion needs to hit them 3 times for that +1/+1 to matter. It's already a big minion. If it hits them 3 times, they're just dead, right? Because it's probably at least a 6/6. You know, what, a 7/7 because you held the Null? So it's just put your 3/5 in play. Like, it's tempo good.
Now, reasons that you might not. Reasons that you might hold.
Sure.
1, if you have a narrow hand and you need to get Stenographer in play and you need to hit a critical mass of spells played. That's an option, right?
I haven't had Stenographer in my list, so
Yeah, he's
haven't had
good.
that. True.
Good card.
Yeah.
So that can be a reason to do so. Reason number 2, you have a Shadow Step that you need to enable, and if your opponent removes your Null, then you don't have any way to juice up your graveyard. There could be fringe situations where you hold the Null for that scenario. Number 3, particular damage breakpoints. If you are against a Control Warrior, and you can make a 3/5 and then a 5/5 next turn, that's Shield Shatter. Otherwise, you make a 3/5 and a 6/6, that's not Shield Shatter. Shield Catter, because there's a cat. I saw the cat. I saw it.
That's quite
However-
a tale.
However, most of the time, just play your 0 mana 3/5.
Yeah.
Because it's a 0 mana 3/5.
I mean, you're playing a tempo deck, right? Like, yeah, you can go for the long ball, but like at the end of the day, like if you get a 3/5 on board and it connects a couple times, it's going to do work, and it's also going to force your opponent to start playing reactively earlier, which then plays into what you want to do.
So once we've nulled. Number 2, stuff. Usually Sinstone Graveyard. Not always. Sometimes you just Concoctor, Shadow Step it, Concoctor again, Alchemist, play Concoction, play your Null, play your Stenographer. Alright, I just played 5 minions, it's turn 3, go. You can do that, it's fine. But more than fine, that'll kill some people. Other times, you have a really big Sinstone Graveyard Ghost. Good, we like those, we take those. That is plan A. And other times, you just start the Astalor chain. And Astalor is very, very, very good in this deck. It's also worth noting, I'm going to say in this do stuff category, in this point of the game, which is air quotes mid-game, starting turn 3 to turn 4, depending on the texture of your hand. You're usually going to get your first ghost down. You can accumulate resources. The question a lot of people are facing is, do I run Krakatoa? Krakatoa in particular, it's a strong card. It can brick your Edwin. It's a little slower, but really good in matchups that are not Demon Hunter. If you're in top 1K, you might not want Krakatoa. If you are in top 1K, you probably don't want Serrated Bone Spike, which is terrifying to me because I think that card is crazy, but it's really bad in the Demon Hunter matchup, and it's not that great in the Rogue matchup. It's not good against the control decks, so you actually have to cut Bone Spike and put in a couple of Gone Fissions. The list that I have here in the show notes and on the screen, it has Krakatoa and Bone Spikes. I like the Bone Spikes, but Gone Fission is better against Demon Hunter. And if you run Gone Fission in that spot, you are not unfavored against Quest Demon Hunter. You're 50-50 exactly, which means you have no actual bad matchups on paper. Assuming perfect execution. Sketchy. I know. They need to nerf it. We know that already. We warned people. It's fine. But yeah, you'll keep going. You'll keep maintaining resources. And then the late game, Astalor comes up a lot. And this deck is the reason why I think there's a very clear case to nerf him and not just Shadow Step. Proactive decks lean into Astalor really, really well. And it's impossible to keep up with the late game here because they just have a bunch of 16 damage pings.
Yeah, I think it gets really messy. The fact that people realized, oh, Shadow Step, the 2 cost, not the expensive one.
Or the
Because
5.
that's
The 5 is
sure.
fine too.
Yeah, I mean either, right? But as long as you don't specifically try and do the 8, right? It's just more stuff. And I think particularly as people have been experimenting with control and things, Shadow Stepping the 2 is so nice because it's just so many additional resources. If I'm playing something like a Blood DK and my opponent Shadow Steps an Astalor 2 to 3 times, that means I have like 3 5/5s to deal with, and then 3 of the late stage one is just so many more resources. And additionally, it's much harder to patchwork away or mutinous away or theatar away because they've gotten so many copies. Whereas if you just try and shadow step the late stage for extra damage, one, you're not leaving an 8/8 in play to get a hit in, but 2, it's much more fragile in terms of being disrupted.
I'm not going to say it, Steve. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, I mean, as a control deck, it can be hard to deal with all that because just like you're already withstanding all of this onslaught, and then there's just 32 damage from hand to deal with, and that can be plus the 8/8s that get left behind that you have to deal with too, and it's just like the body is relevant on top of that too. So it's like I know that we were kind of I was saying, well, Shadow Step's the problem because they're Shadow Stepping the Astalor, and that is a consequence of me playing the decks that I'm playing against Rogue. But I like it sometimes just makes sense to do that when you're just trying to make a Sinstone Graveyard bigger. Like it's still going to be free when you play the 2 mana one again. Right. So like generally when you're shadow stepping, you're trying to shadow step something that's going to give you at least a little bit of incremental value. Right. Like you're trying to shadow step a Concoctor's really good. Astalor's obviously very good. Edwin's okay, but generally you're better off leaving him on the board that late in the game. But and Null is okay if you can do something with the rush. And sometimes like you'll just get like a janky like vanilla minion off of one of the concoctions that doesn't do anything, but you'll step it because it's free to play it again just to get the extra 2 stats. Like it's kind of a fine line to tread as far as like when do you actually need to juice for value and when can you just throw away, when is a shadow step worth being just like a +2/+2 buff on a ghost?
I mean, I think what's so great is the flexibility, right? Like that's why this deck is so powerful. Astalor adds this element of flexibility that you can step for kind of value and tempo, right? If you're getting that 2 damage off of Astalor too, and extra life in terms of Astalor 5 against something more aggressive. You can stepping Null or Stenographer lets you rush into more things against aggressive decks. So it just has all this versatility, which is of course part of its strength, also part of the difficulty of playing it. I think the favorite thing to Shadow Step is Putricide. Doesn't come up as much, but that can be a great one. Just like take some trades, get a bunch of concoctions. Okay, let's get the Putricide back so we can do that again.
I've done that. Like, there are times when you need the value to keep going. But, I don't know. People have been using Shadow Step too much for value for years and years and years and years. My go-to rule with Shadow Step is that if you're Shadow Stepping something, you're not replaying the same turn, you need to have a really, really good reason for it. Could be, I played Edwin on an empty board. The first draw was Shadow Step. I have nothing else to keep going and need to keep going the chain. Okay, I buy that.
Or your first draw was Krakatoa.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Shadow Step on Putricide if I'm in a value matchup and I have the opportunity to get a whole bunch more concoctions and I'm going to need them. Sure, I get it. Otherwise, probably leave the thing in play or replay it immediately. If you're not doing that, you need to have a really clear reason because otherwise it's probably a mistake to get rid of the stats that you're going to have in play to hit your opponent with the next turn. it's also worth noting, Shadow of Demise is an incredible card that if you don't own this and you want to play Rogue for the next year and 4 months, save yourself the trouble, just craft it right now. Because it's going to be in every Rogue deck as long as Rogue exists. You get crazy Shadow Step chains with it all the time. And it works particularly well with Shadow Step. It works well with every single spell in the deck, but Shadow Step in particular, you get some pretty goofy chain. Just be careful about your sequencing.
Yeah, don't prep and then Shadow of Demise. That's not going to work the way you want it to work.
Yes. And be careful with Bone Spike sequencing as well. But it floats across turns, really smart. I think the question that comes up the most when people talk about this deck: what concoctions do you pick when you belt on 2? So what have you two generally been doing as far as concoction choices?
Sprint.
Okay,
Yeah, I generally go. I've generally gone draw 2, 3 less is my go. If I'm not in a matchup where I know I'm going to need something more specific, like it's because that's what I look at as like the pure value potion, right? Because then it gives you 2 cards and then one more that you know is going to be cheap enough that you're probably going to be able to build a chain out of it.
Yeah. Makes sense. I've been originally I was on the take minions train before everybody started playing Miracle Rogue. But now that more people are playing it, and especially now that more people know how to play against it, I just want to draw more of my Miracle Rogue cards. So I take draw 2 way more than I did. I directed people pretty frequently to 3-drop minions, and in slower matchups you still want to do that. But there aren't that many of those anymore. And clearing minions is not that hard in this format, because if you can't do it, then you're not a deck. So, random 3-drop...
Plus the 3-drops are also a straight-up liability in the mirror, right? Because, then you're giving them Bone Spike targets, potentially.
If they even play Bone Spike anymore.
If they play Bone Spike, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not as worried about that. I think it's going to be hard to avoid having minions in play. But just they're not hard to remove. They get rushed into easily. The quality is pretty variable. And... when your best case is a slightly high-rolled double agent, we cut double agent from Thief Rogue in Alterac, so why would it be good enough now? So I was doing that when I was playing against more Druids, but there aren't as many Druids anymore. So probably just take draw most of the time, especially early on, because you'll probably need the cards and they will probably get you where you want to go. That's what I've been convinced that draw is definitely better.
And if you can't get that, sometimes you can do the cost 3 less as well, because that can be just extra combo-y, right? If you get something that is just free or very, very cheap.
Yeah, you generally don't want to take Destroy a Minion unless you know that it's a matchup where you're going to need a lot of them. Which, something like a Imp Warlock might be one of those.
I haven't seen one of those in a while.
You're not playing at the ranks that I'm playing at, Hat. So I've been seeing plenty of them, and or other minion heavy decks that are going to be playing, big minions that you're going to have trouble dealing with the removal in your deck. But you're gonna know what kinds of matchups those are when you get into them, and then you'll take more of those. But you shouldn't really be taking destroy 2 random minions unless you know for sure that you're in one of those matchups.
Which can be the mirror. If your opponent has a graveyard down, it could be the mirror where you take a deadly shot and you get ready to deal with a couple large ghosts. It can be pretty powerful. Easily something like Big Spell Mage. Arcane Defenders is a big pain in the butt. You really want to be able to take care of that. Yeah, I played against a Blessed Priest the other day. So, if you see a Blessed Priest, take deadly shots. Doesn't come up much, but if it does, you'll like you said, Steve, you'll know. What are our mulligans?
Belt. Cutlass.
Yeah, Belt, Cutlass, Graveyard, Null, sometimes, right?
I think for the purpose of this explanations, I will say probably keep Wild Punt Null. And I understand that sounds dumb that it's a question. But the power of Belt and Graveyard is so significant that there are high legend players that are rightfully saying if you don't have Cutlass, Belt, or Graveyard, you probably shouldn't keep Knoll. Now, I think if you are learning how to play with this deck, probably just keep it. It's a good card, and it will help a lot with the matchups that you need to help in. But it's not a sure thing that you keep it anymore.
Well, and also since it's so narrow, your reductions, right? There's only Cutlass for tradable. You don't have SI7 extortion. So if you do not hit the potion belt, it can take a little while to actually reduce the null. So it's not only that, okay, those cards are really good, it's that the null is not as good if you don't have something to discount it faster.
Yeah. It's and if the nulls end up costing 1 and you need to play it, you should probably just play it. But of course, if you have the time, you can wait. It'll cost 0. Talked about the flex slots already. Talked about Astalor. Man, that card is crazy. Bad matchups. Hardest matchup, your own execution. No, but really, this is challenging to play. There are sequences that are not at all obvious or intuitive. Even when you know them, it can be hard to actually play the cards in the right order. And you also have to make sure you keep up with your opponent's removal and pacing. If you trade too much, you'll run out of time. If you don't prioritize value enough, you'll run out of stuff. The deck is not unbeatable, but with proper execution, it's quite strong. Also, Jay Crick mentioned in the chat, I'm glad he did, Iron Deep Trog on 1. If you see an Iron Deep Trog on 1, and you have a Cutlass in your hand, equip the Cutlass and kill the Trog. You need to have a really good reason to not do that, but just equip the 2/2 weapon and kill the 1/2, because if they're a Trog on 1 deck, they're gonna have a 2/2. You want to kill both things. It's either a Spirit Poacher or a Harbinger of Frost. Those are the Trog decks. It's going to be one of those, or like, I don't know, an Arcane Worm or something.
I've seen some aggro druids lately, but they're going to have plenty of things to kill.
Yeah. Probably just equip on 1. It's fine. You can do that. You're allowed to do that. Cutlass is a good card. It's a 1-mana 2/2 weapon. Crazy. That's the alternate mode of playing it. But outside of your own execution, the most common difficult matchup you're going to see is Quest Demon Hunter. It is like a 45%er. If you run the build without Bone Spikes, it's pretty close to 50%. But you got to be really careful about not giving them Sinful Brand targets unless you're going to lethal them or unless you don't have an option. Astalor 5 is a big deal in that matchup because the extra armor matters a lot, but also you can just kind of get under them. And if you make a 9/9 on turn 3, that's enough. I know, sounds crazy. There are ways to be faster than that deck. They have a few setup turns, and you can be faster, but also they can punish you. And if you have a wide, small board and they do the Unleash Fell thing, you probably die. Yeah. What have you all been facing that's been challenging for Rogue? Steve, I know you had some insight into the Frost DK matchup.
Yeah, also just like, nobody's playing it except for me. And, a few people at High Legend, but Svalna Priest is very, very good against that's the reason people are playing it, because it has a good matchup against Rogue, because Shadow Word Ruin is a good card, and also you can use, and you have Zarella Clears to get through like the initial Russian minions, and then you can drown the Astalors once you start getting going with the Svalna, and it's not the kind of thing that you can disrupt easily. The Thief Rogue is a much better matchup into there because, Mage Secrets disrupt a lot of what it wants to do, but the Miracle Rogue doesn't have the Mage Secrets. Frost DK can be difficult if they get going quickly and if you get a slow start, just because they can start getting all of their stuff going. They can, if you can't kill them by the time the Frostworm's Fury comes down, you're gonna be having a hard time, probably, because the Frostworm's Furies will give them enough time. And you have to be able to build a minion that's big enough to matter before they can get. I don't even want to say 7 mana because sometimes it doesn't cost 7 if they're running the weapon. But yeah, if you can't get under Frostworm's Fury, then you're going to struggle a lot. And sometimes the draws that you have just aren't conducive to that, or you don't find their graveyard early enough or whatever.
I think Shockspitter Hunter can be a little challenging at times, right? If they do have the Trog on 1, and you have to deal with that, and you don't have an answer, right? That can be awkward. And also, Candle Shot plus that 3-drop means they can kill your ghost and not take damage, which is something that in the past hunters have not necessarily been able to deal with big minions like that. But I think just the nature of Shockspitter Hunter being able to counter lethal you sometimes by surprise. And this rogue, good at making big stuff, doesn't have burst besides Astalor. So
Or three damage concoctions.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your minions tend to be bigger than Shockspitter can handle cleanly because you're a little bit faster and you can't stop the ghost until it's hit you once. So
True.
statistically, it is rogue favored. Like again, it's 55-45 for the rogue, not hugely favored. Rogue struggles a little bit more against beast actually, if you see any of those, because mountain bears just get in the way, and that's enough. But beast doesn't see anywhere near as much play, and it's still slightly rogue favorable just because of how fast the minions come down. But slightly favored. The flavor of the month or of the week or of the day, whatever, that is picking up steam specifically as a counter to Rogue and Demon Hunter, especially at High Legend, are Control decks, Control Paladin, Control Warrior. And these decks, they gain life, they clear big boards in damage agnostic ways or in ways that are tuned to be good against Rogue. And then they kill you while having enough life to not die to Astalor, hopefully. So there's the Control Paladin is probably the better one of these decks because it's more well-rounded. We talked about it already. Anachronos, very good against ghosts. You just do Anachronos and then you equality tax them when everything comes back. Pretty powerful. And then the Warrior deck, you do the Shield Shatter thing. You hit them with Blacksmithing Hammers. You have Tidal Revenants, whatever. And you're generally able to keep up with the threats because you run 2 Brawls, 2 Shield Shatters, some Shield Slams, all this stuff. And Rokara Hero, quite good against big ghosts because you bonk them right back. So, not super duper crazy favored, but favored enough. And both of these decks have one thing in common. They both play Far Watch Post. And Far Watch Post, extremely powerful against both Rogue and Demon Hunter. Really, really strong card in those matchups.
Yeah. Big Spell Mage isn't bad either if it gets the right draw, because it's almost always going to hit something with Barbaric Sorceress. And it also runs Far Watch Post, which can cause some problems. And then, if they get the Barbaric Sorceress off, like the Astral Defenders and Rune the Archmage are both pretty good at least slowing things down or just dealing with the boards. And they have lots of freezes too, right? Like you're running the the locations, and you're running Varden and the Snow Flurry. Snow Flurry?
Yep.
Yeah.
Amplified Snow
I
Flurry.
don't know why I was Amplified Snow Flurry. So like you have ways to freeze the minions also, which kind of makes it hard to hit. I mean, you get one, if with the exception of Varden, you do get one swing with the ghosts, but you may not get a second one.
Yeah, I mean, freeze effects, like, if they come online quickly enough and then you can also kill them, then they work. But you have to do both of those things, and usually you can do one, but not the other. So none of the freeze decks are highly favored against Rogue. Nothing is highly favored against Rogue, but Frosty K and Aggro Mage get a little closer, with Frosty K being slightly favored and Aggro Mage being slightly unfavored.
Yeah,
It wouldn't ever buff or unnerf Watch Post to deal with.
I thought you were going to say
This is the
Snowfall Guardian.
second
I was
week in
going to
a row
boot you
now.
from the call.
The second week in a row that someone on this podcast has suggested that, and neither time was it me.
I did not suggest to revert to 4 Watch Post. Oh, that was Monkey, wasn't it? It was the weird
that was
deck
Monkey,
building
yeah.
person that's like, let me make your cards cost more expensive,
right.
so they're
Yeah.
as good as my bad cards. Yeah, I understand the appeal. I think they're probably just going to nerf Rogue and Demon Hunter and probably regular Hunter. That would be my
probably.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems likely.
Yeah.
We'll see when that happens.
I do want to point out, when you're saying like favored, unfavored, those are also stats from people who are experienced with the deck. So your mileage may vary when you're starting out, because there are a lot of, as we said, your execution matters. That also matters in whether you're favored or unfavored in a matchup, because if you're, if it was a 55% matchup, but you're inexperienced on the deck, that could tilt it to a 50 or a 45% matchup for you. So don't be discouraged with it. It's a powerful deck when you've learned it, but it's going to take you some reps. if you're not used to playing decks like this, to be able to get to that point where you feel favor against everything.
And just as an illustration here, if you look at HS replay stats, last 7 days at Legend, Miracle Rogue is 20% of the meta. At Diamond 5, 6%. 6%.
I've been playing it like Diamond 3 the last couple days. I honestly, maybe I've seen 1 or 2 Miracle Rogues in a lot of games.
Way more Thief Rogues.
Way more Shock Spitter Hunters.
Yeah, that too.
Is way more than anything. Like I've seen way more Hunters than I have Rogues in the last couple days.
What is it at top 1K?
Top 1K is not listed in the HS replay, but probably a lot. I would guess a very large amount. So I don't have the stats there, but my understanding is that it is... Well, the Vicious Syndicate report does have the stats. We can just pop right on over there, take a look. At top 1K, 26% from our data range.
That's not as high as I expected.
I mean... The other
Depends
19%
on which streamer
of...
you watch.
The other 19% of Rogues is Thief Rogues, which is still more than the number 3 deck overall, which is Quest DH. So,
okay.
Yeah, no, it's 45% of top 1K is Rogue.
I see.
Yeah.
But people like Thief Rogue.
Imagine playing Tess when you could just be playing this.
Okay, I want
think...
to point out, I had 2 Glugs in play today. Don't shame me. I like Glug.
I think the important takeaway from that, though, is that 45% is Wild Pawn Null.
Correct, yes. I wonder if that card's too good at 5 mana. If only we had some basis for comparison last January.
We need Anachronos to send us 2 weeks into the future.
Yeah. Or however long it is. Listen, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. But maybe there are changes in the 17th. I don't know. We don't know. We have no idea. I would bet against it, but there could be.
So was 2 years ago the last time they did that?
Last year, but a week later than this. So last year was
2021, I thought.
2021, they had a 2-card balance change the first week of the month on the January 6th. And then they had a larger change the end of the month. But that was the emergency window because it was all World Kick Rogues and Evolved Shamans, and that was unbearable. So I don't know what they're going to do this time. But the last time they had a multiple card, like more than 2-card balance patch in first half of January, like they haven't. They haven't really done that. They'll do either a tiny one at the start of the month, or they'll do a big one at the end of the month. So that's likely what we're going to get, but I don't know if the 17th counts at the end of the month, if they're going to be able to get it into that patch. Bet against it, but I don't know. I would like for some changes to happen, and I think that there are more changes than we can possibly predict in the scope of this show, because they said spicy buffs, and who knows what they're going to do.
But whatever happens, we all know that the mistake isn't coming till the mini set.
Right.
We've been told that explicitly. Any final thoughts?
All good.
Yay, Rogue.
You sounded so enthusiastic.
I know.
You're going to have to go identity theft some more people.
Well,
everyone, we have many folks we'd like to thank. You can check out the thanks section on the website, coincade.com. Find our contact info, our show notes, our Patreon information. Monetarily support our show over at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live and by following us over on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats and our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. If you'd like some CC swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Doge Decay, Crash Cap, B-Squatch, David P, Fade to Black, Wild Lou, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, Lucky, Grumpy Monk, Krebs Mart, and The Burger Club. Thank you, Shadow Dragon V78 for the raid. What good? You go first for Coin Concedes, because you have a good one.
So I am going to Coin Concede to my dear friend, Andrew Brown, formerly of the Happy Hearthstone, because he was in town flew in on Sunday, and then he was working on Monday and I guess on the north coast of North Shore rather North Coast. I've only lived here for 20 years. I should know what the hell the coast the shore is called. Like somewhere in the North Shore of Mass, and he said I'm going to be in for like flying in Sunday, flying out Tuesday. Do you want to try to get dinner? So we did. Boy, I canceled my stream on Monday and we went to Dave and Buster's. He drove like an hour and a half in Boston traffic to meet me and the family. Someplace where we could get my oldest daughter from work and then go meet him. And yeah, we had a great time, and it's really good to see him again. I mean, it's been since before the pandemic, because that's the last time, saw anybody other than that in person. So, and also I forget, it's been long enough that I forgot exactly how tall Andrew is, because there's a picture of me online and he is, I actually nearly had to get up on my tiptoes for that picture just to be in it, because he is like that much taller than I am. But it was a lot of fun, and hopefully the next time that he's here, he'll get to stay a little bit longer. But it's good to get together with good friends when you can.
Yes, it is. Edelweiss, Coin Concedes.
So I'm going to go and concede to Funky Monkey for subbing in for me last week. It was really fun listen. I appreciated that. And then I was going to put down, but you've got it in yours, the housewife going through some rough stuff.
Yeah, she posted this twit longer of bunch of things that went down this past year. I had no idea. She was pretty good at playing those cards close to the chest, and there's just a lot of significant challenge, but she was really grateful that people were there to help without realizing they were helping. So really hope things get better for her this year coming up, because there was a lot to process there. Who else? Yeah, go ahead.
I have one other, because I wasn't on last week, so I couldn't say. Coin Concede to Blizzard for the stuff, because it's cold in Cleveland. Or at least it was and will be again, I'm sure. I think we're getting a storm tomorrow. And I have warm things now. I mean, I had before, but I have more now.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you were warmer, and it will probably be cold in Cleveland at some point. That seems somewhat confident. It seems likely. So, Coin Concedes as well. Divok, who is a friend of the show, one of our patrons, and also a nice fellow that's working on this really cool Pokemon fan game called Tectonic, and is the lead battle designer for it. And I put a link to that right in the show notes. It looks really fun. So the people in the New Year's Goals channel, you were all amazing and great at setting resolutions, and my resolution so far this year is to set a resolution. Just, pop in there and do something and say something. So I'm planning on doing that. Steven Sensei in particular, Steven, your fitness journey is inspirational. So very well done. I really enjoyed reading your story, your progress, and it's been very, very impressive. And then Atesh, who we know from, he used to work on Duels. He's a friend of Brad's, who does exist. And he got married Saturday. I have a picture.
This was quite the epic wedding photo.
Yeah, where is here? So majestic. It's flowing. I don't even know what's going on, but I love it. I love it so much. So Atesh, Mrs. Atesh, congratulations. Well done. Very on brand. And really, really, I wish you a lifetime of happiness. They apparently have been together for 11 years. That's a long time.
Wow.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. So majestic. Congratulations, Atesh. And Mrs. Atesh. I don't know her name. And I think that's gonna do it. So, keep calm. Take the time to grab a meal with a friend. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Right. I have to do that because I am flying out to Phoenix tomorrow to see a buddy, and I have an 8 a.m. flight. Kill me now. I want to die.
There's an 8 a.m. now?
Okay. You, of all people, do not get to pretend that you're not up at 5 most days.
No, it's 6:15 now.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
What number are we? What is this?
378.
378. Okay.
Yep. So, in the interest of expeditiously packing, I'm going to bring the stream down. But everyone, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you soon next week. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.